Well, hello and welcome. We are here for week 3 of season 3, 21-22 of the Zwift Racing League. Kate Bates joined by the one and only whiteboard queen, Anna Russell. Anna, one of these days you're going to have to bring your whiteboard on with us so we can all see the magic. Now we've got a points race, Anna. It's the first one of the season. So tonight's going to be a bit animated.
I know it is going to be really exciting. I know that we've got a sprint first up really quickly. So I will take us straight to Cy Bradley, who has done a little bit of a rundown of the course, and we're going to hear all about it from him.
Hey Zwifters, welcome to Nyokio, stage 3, and it's Chasing the Sun. 35 kilometres. We've got 5 time segments, 4 sprints and 1 climb. 7 opportunities to pick up power-ups, and those power-ups today will be the aero, the draft, and an invisibility ghost, making you invisible for 10 seconds. And it's all going to start with this sprint here, the alley sprint. We've got 2 sprints coming within the first 5 kilometres. This one, the alley, and then the railway sprint, the longest sprint in today's stage at 640 metres. It's all about timing, utilising those power-ups. We're then going to roll up the rooftop reverse. Not a time segment, but I do think it's going to impact the race. We're then going to leave through this tunnel towards the countryside, and in fact towards the shortest sprint in today's stage at kilometre 17, which is the country sprint, just 130 metres. We're then going to roll through up to this point on the dirt roads of the Temple Com. 2.5 kilometres up, 2.5 kilometres down, all on dirt. This is the place where you decide, are you going to switch bikes or are you going to stick with your road bike? We're going to then descend the other side, and then it's a roads all the way back to Nyokio for the final 2 sprints. One, which is the tower sprint. Time segments again, first across the line and the fastest through segment before the grand final and that final finish line sprint here at kilometre 35. Good luck, Zwifters. Ride on.
That was awesome, and we do.
Well, there you have it.
That was great. And we've got the women actually already out on course. A quick pre-show today. We will get out there because I know they're hitting that first sprint at 700 metres. We'll head down to the women's BCAT for Apac.
All right, let's head down. They've got 35.1k tonight. It's only 1 lap, Chasing the Sun in Makuri Islands. That first sprint you mentioned, alley sprint, 700 metres in. Gee, that's a pretty nasty way to start the race. Then 3.9 kilometres is the second sprint. So already they're on the run in here. They've got 3 power-ups tonight, the aero, the truck, and my favourite, the ghost. So let's just see how they go into this. Obviously, the bunch is still together because they're a couple of 100 metres in. But every chance after this first sprint, Anna, that 1 or 2 might get jettisoned pretty early.
Yeah, and it's important to note that we do have. I will try and pull up the standings a bit later when we are past this first frantic part of the course. But the AHDRL team and TBR is very, very, I think, equal on points at the top of the table, with the Smile On crew having that great time trial. Here they are, the first sprint. So we'll see how this is going to pan out with these races. Looks like we've already got Maple here from TBW going for it with Lucy from TBR right on her tail. Whether she can take this out, they weave between the people. Great timing from Lucy from the big ring. Looks like she was take this out. Very long sprint though. Look at this. This goes on for such an amazing amount of time. And we've got Maple coming through in second. See who comes through in third. She actually might come through for second as well. That is Georgia there from AHDRL, taking it out over Maple right on the line. Not too long now, and then they're going to hit the next one at 3.9k.
Yeah, that was a nasty way to start. Very big effort from Lucy Isdale. Need to make sure you're nice and efficient, ladies, in the sprinting. I will say that for sure. I want to make sure that nobody is wasting too much energy early on doing all of those sprints. We do definitely have a very good field for this. Anna, you mentioned very quickly in our closing last week, almost like a tease, that you were thinking about a bike swap for this one too.
Oh, I'm going to do a bike swap, absolutely, for sure. It's probably not going to be the best choice on this course, but I went out and did a practice race. We're just kind of, I mean, you were doing a great job in the studio, saw for Paris-Roubaix, but I kind of want to bring a bit of the Paris-Roubaix buzz to the racing, have a bit of a breakaway, have some riders on the chase, just make it a bit interesting, not just a big bunch sort of pack right to the finish line.
Absolutely. I completely agree with that. I think we saw some of the best racing for Paris-Roubaix than we've seen in a long time. And I mean, it's easy to say that, right? You're like, it just keeps getting better, as though you almost forgot about what happened last year. But I think especially for the women, the fields are almost like what we've been seeing in Community League, Anna, that every single time they race, it's almost like they're better because the depth is really increasing. And now that they've really taken as seriously as they should and kind of given a lot more opportunities, pushing towards that equal opportunities in the sport, that we're just seeing a lot more depth and a lot more athletes who are able to be athletes and not also work full-time jobs. And so the depth of the field is really increasing. And we always talk about that in community leagues, that every single season we just feel like they're getting smarter, savvier, and their power averages are moving up too. The men are now out on course. They've also got that first sprint. Now, it is 700 metres into the race course, but it does come at, looks like at about the kilometre mark for the marker on the screen once they have that little lead in. So that's what we're watching for.
Yes, so this is a huge bunch as well in the men's group. So it's going to be frantic to try and catch them into the sprint. They've only got 500 metres to go. This is going crazy. So we'll head over straight into this men's race just to get eyes on them and see what's happening. But look at the huge sprint to start off with. I mean, massive pack here. You just wonder what the strategy would be, whether you could sort of earn the matches this early on with a sprint and be able to hold on till the end, or if you'll sort of sacrifice some teammates to get up there. What do you think?
Well, I think we've got Mark O'Brien out there. I think that they are fairly brutal in the application of their strategy, and I think that they will be looking to go for points early and just keep the pace going. And to be honest, they have the depth to be able to do that. NZ Bro are also a team that are very well suited to the longer range attacks, and I think if they can hang in there in the sprints and go over the top. But look at this with Aero. I mean, they're on a mission. Sam Hill and Torben Partridge Madsen, two of our riders from the Esports World Champs.
Who's this coming up? Haggerty.
Friendly. Who is Haggerty?
Whoa, Haggerty took that out over the line. Absolute craziness there. That was phenomenal. We've got a replay of that, so I'll hopefully try and come back. The women are at 3.5k. They're almost up to their second sprint, so we will just head over and watch them. It's a bit of a brutal sprint. They head up this kind of false flat. Well, not even a false flat, just a hill, really. A bit of a brutal hill heading into the sprint.
Well, yeah, isn't it an illusion? Because it says 0%. If you look on the top right, but they sure look like they're slogging it up a little bit, and with the speed. And so this is certainly, now they are definitely going uphill. Corinne sort of hanging out at the back, but I expect quite a lot from Corinne on a course like this. This is the kind of course that would really suit her. And when it does start to turn uphill, I think some of the other riders would be wise to keep their eye on her. We have to remember, Anna, it's another 5K hero tonight. So everybody,
yes.
Throw yourselves out there. Anybody in the socials, jump in when you see someone who may be.
I might give it to whoever does a bike swap, to be honest, because it's going to be a risky move. We'll see if they can do it. Looks like Danny D here from TBR coming through, but you can say this better than I can. Hensa Semenko, was that it? She's coming through pretty fast. Danny's,
that's it.
She just got taken. That was a three-woman sprint there too. The finish between Lucy, Georgia, and Cal there, all from 3 different teams. So pretty amazing there. We'll see the points when they come up. Looks like I've got some initial segments now from the women's race, from that first sprint. So not that second one that we've just seen, but from that first one. So we had Lucy Esdale there. She took out both first across line and fastest time segment. She sent me a message tonight as well, so we'll make sure we get on that and share what cocktail they've got going tonight. But wow, that was a phenomenal effort from her. Then it looks like we've got AHDRL with Miller in second and Fung in fourth, with Maple there sort of in between in third. So it's a real mixed bag tonight. Not any one sort of team taking it out. We'll see what the points look like after that second sprint. Coming up next, though, it's an interesting part of the course. It's the climb, the reverse rooftop but there's no points on offer. So we'll see what the motivation's like for the ladies here to get up that rooftop climb if there's nothing sort of on reward at the top.
Yeah, well, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because the last couple of weeks, first we had a scratch race where they didn't have to worry about the intermediate sprint points. And then we had a team's time trial, which, of course, is a completely different bag. But that also the overall standings a little bit as well. And so this week they would have had to go back to the drawing board. And it's almost because of those, we've almost forgotten the strategy behind a lot of these points races in previous seasons, which is where a lot of the time you actually don't see some of the prolific point scorers really at all. Now, this is interesting in the men. Torben Partridge Madsen on the move up this little climb section. I did suspect Aero would just do this all day. And I say it every week, I kind of feel sorry for everybody when they line up against these guys, because win or lose, they make it hard.
Exactly. And look at Tabelong. He is chasing. This is a big move from Torben Partridge Madsen. Huge to go on that climb, quite far away from a long sprint, but has managed to get away. Gone clear, absolutely. Tabelong chasing hard. He'll take it in for second. And then it looks like we will have a bit of a race here for third across the line. A few NZ bros, but also I have actually had a conversation with Mark Bosted, because I keep hassling him about the fact that he's a New Zealander riding for an Australian esport team. And I've told him I will stop harassing him about it if he wears a little bit of Kiwi flair. Let's see. I'm going to see if he's wearing what I said, which was some black socks and white shoes to have a bit of a Kiwi flair to what he's wearing, except he has not done that. So I will continue, Mark Bosted, to give you a bit of grief for riding on an Australian team. There is no Kiwi flair there that I can see whatsoever. But just looks like I don't have audio here from Kate, but we'll see if we can bring that back in. And yeah, this is Mark Bosted there. He looked actually pretty good in that sprint. We might actually just try and see if we can get a couple of replays of what's happening in that men's race. It's pretty fast and furious at the start here. We do have the women now heading up this rooftop climb. I'm not sure there will be a whole lot of action here, I've got to say, just with the fact that there's no points on offer at the top. See if we can get... I'll send some offline messages to Katie, see if we can get her back into the feed. But looking at the women's race, I've got to say it doesn't look as though they are going to split this apart. Men's race on the left, women's race on the right. And like I thought, all sort of staying together. I mean, if you've got races coming up in the next few days, I do think this could be a great place to attack, just because it would be unexpected. Most people would not attack up this climb. We'll see if the men's race, something's going to get lit up here. Definitely not happening in the women's race, although it looks as though Mark O'Brien, who I know Katie really likes, is taken a little bit of an offensive here. And this is what I like to see. This is what I think could work on this sort of a climb. Tricino there from World Elite Zwifters riding at huge power to stay with Mark O'Brien. I mean, O'Brien is the breakaway king. So he knows his stuff. He knows how to stay away from the pack, and he's doing that right now. They're pushing some heavy numbers, 5-second gap on that group behind, and we'll take that over to the men's race as the women continue on with theirs. And Mark O'Brien has taken that up. No points here on this climb though. So it is an interesting one for Mark O'Brien to be pushing so hard. There must be a strategy here for the Aero team for them to be doing this. The women all still compact as one group. They have not moved much, but these two, 8 seconds ahead now. They're gaining a little bit of traction, and this is what I would like to see a bit more of in Zwift racing, is just the fact that you can break away. A lot of people are scared to break away. They just want to stay in the safety of the pack. Sometimes you can actually get away and have your teammates sort of muck up the chase a little bit. The impetus goes out. People aren't really that willing to put in a whole lot of effort where they don't need to. But these guys are pushing I hope they know there's no points at the top of this, because they are pushing extremely hard. Bit of a chase now coming from Nakagawa from ZWC. A couple of ghosts being dropped. Let me know in the chat where you think the best place is to drop a ghost. I personally don't think anywhere is going to be actually that great to drop a ghost power up in this race, but let me know if you think there's somewhere that could be good. Maybe just before a bike swap and then no one will see you. Could actually be a great place to do it. So coming down now, we've still got our leaders off the front, 11 seconds at the front. Mark O'Brien, he's putting his name out there for a good candidate for the 5 kilometer hero. They're coming off the climb now. I do actually have a short video once they get off here. As we approach the sprint, next sprint is at about 17.1 kilometers, a very short sprint, the countryside sprint once they're in the Mercury Islands, and it's only 130 meters long. Looks as though we will see these men coming down 9 seconds back. I think it will come together. And while they make their way, they've got about 10 kilometers to the next sprint. We do actually have a video here, a bit of a coach's corner, a tip from the 5th place in the female eSport World Championship, Liz Van Houweling. She's got something to say about sprinting.
Hi, my name is Liz Van Houweling, and I am a cycling coach out of the Des Moines, Iowa area. And on this Coach's Corner, we are going to be talking about sprinting. Sprinting is super critical if you want to have success on Zwift. So many of the races tend to finish in pretty big bunch sprints, so we could all stand to improve our sprint a little bit. So a lot of times people think the people with the biggest 10 to 15 second watt per kilo numbers are going to win every race. And a lot of times they do, but I would also not underestimate the importance of that 1 minute power. A lot of times the last kilometer or so of the race can get pretty spicy, so being able to survive that, to hang in there, and put yourself in a good position to be able to unleash that big 10-second sprint is really important. So one of my favorite ways to work on 1 minute power is to head over to Innsbruck on the leg snapper climb and do repeats of that. So you start off with just 2 or 3 repeats with pretty good recovery. You can even do the whole Innsbrucking short lap there. And just every time you hit that climb, go all out, all the way up it, and recover and do it again. And work your way up to 4 or 5, even 6 repeats with 4 or 5 minutes recovery. Work your way so you just go up it as hard as you can, flip a U-turn, cruise back down, recover a minute, and turn around and do it again and again. And try to work so that you can eventually stand up for the entire duration of that climb. It's not that long, and a lot of times people find it easier to produce higher power in the standing position. So just working on your extended standing climbing like that should help translate into a more powerful sprint as well. So I hope you can use these tips to help you get a much improved sprint and have better finishing positions in your races. And I look forward to seeing you out on the virtual roads of Watopia. Thank you.
So it was some good tips there from Liz Van Houweling. She obviously is performing very well in the eSport world, coming 5th at the World Champs recently around the New York course. You can see her racing in the Premier Division for Saris Nopens. Looks as though the Aero team has got a concerted strategy here. Harvey here attacking off the front. It's got 4 seconds on Mitch Zito from the Ink Battlers and the Chase Pack just 4 seconds behind. So it's not really getting a whole lot of traction here, but it looks as though they're throwing out these sort of 1-2 punches in this course. And looking at what's happening in the women's race, all still together. So they are still just kind of, I would say the pace has definitely come off. They're kind of relaxing in the pack at the moment, not sort of not burning too many matches after that really tricky part with those first 2 sprints and the climb. They can kind of relax now a little bit till the 17K mark, but also maybe this is a good place to attack. I'm not sure. It could be a good place when you are sort of the pace has come off the group. They're riding here at around 2.8 watts per kg. And, it does sound like we've got Katie back. So we don't have to hear my voice blabbing away. We've had a couple more attacks from Aero. So your team out there is representing proud. They've just had their second attacker brought in. So I'm wondering who's going to go next.
Well, I apologise for my little tech delay. It appears my Mac has decided to just die pretty much. So that's fun. It's always fun. Let's hope the rider's legs don't die in the same way that my computer has. So Aero, I think when I decided to cut out, I was just saying that Aero are all such a formidable force. There's a lot that can be respected about the way they race, because win or lose, they're not left wondering, and nobody is left wondering about their style of race. That we are starting to get some other teams that mimic that style and make it pretty hard across the board for everybody. It's NZ Bro is another team who could be in a really good position for that, and it is still a big bunch, but there's quite a few that have dropped off already, Anna. So it's whittling down.
Yeah, this pack has gone down quite a lot with those attacks, and there was, I think you might have missed the huge attack from your mate Mark O'Brien up the climb that actually had no points on offer. He just sort of went for this big run up the climb, and this has really strung it out. We've already, as we've been chatting, he looks like he's off the front again. Mark O'Brien with another World Elite Zwifter, not the same one as before, but Tabalong. He has had enough of all these attacks off the front. He just wants to get on. This is a great time to attack, actually, because as I was saying while we were watching Liz Van Houweling's video on sprint technique as they're heading into their sprint at 17K, it's basically 10 kilometres of sort of nothing at the moment. It's just riding. So it could be good to attack when the pace comes off. I mean, you've had a lot to do with the Paris-Roubaix Femme that's gone on over the weekend. I want to ask you about timing. So, Elisa Longo-Borghini, how much of it is just impeccable timing, and how much of it is good teamwork, having other teammates in the chase, and how much of it is just the strength of you as a rider?
Good question. I think that on the one hand, Trek had a tremendous day, didn't they? With three of them up there, but they also had a bit of a ball from Balsamo, where she got disqualified for a sticky bidden. So it was a bit of a mixed day of fortunes for them. I think when we're looking at Longo-Borghini, it was very much about timing. And I say that because she hasn't had a tremendous season, and she has been getting better, but there's been a lot of races just been just an absolute sufferfest from go to woe. And in those cases, she hasn't done particularly well. What she did here was exceptionally good position and being able to look after herself a little bit, and then just perfect timing. But there were a couple of times where she looked over her shoulder, got out of her seat again, in very much in a way to me that was like, if this doesn't work, I'm done. So I'm giving it absolutely everything I have, and let's see what happens. And sometimes that kind of attitude can be really helpful in racing, you know, when you go in, and you often see it from the riders who are top tier but aren't having the best time, because there's not a lot of pressure on them. And so they're not looking at it thinking, oh my gosh, I can't afford to take a risk here. They're more like, you know what, I back myself, I'm capable of this. It hasn't been going well. I've got nothing to lose. Let's see what happens. And that's what Longo-Borghini did. A little bit of Roubaix here with Onto the Dirt, Anna. There's no bike changes to be seen, I might add. But Tabalong's still the one really pushing the pace. If he and Mark O'Brien and Ed Morgan's up there too can keep this going, it's a pretty dangerous break.
This is dangerous.
The question then becomes, who's going to chase it?
And look at this, you got people already chasing from this pack. So the pack is, you know, back here. People are bursting off the front because they've realized the kind of danger, because this is great tactics. This is sort of a bit of a split pack. You've got this group here, then 5 seconds up the road, you've got a little crew of, let me get up there, Endo, from this the ZWC team, and then they've sort of joined up now. So this is quite the group off the front. If they all work together, you've got an NZ Bro rider, you've got DPAC, you've got World Elite Zwifters, you've got a team error. Is anyone missing from this group? Because anyone missing, they should be drilling it off the front of the other group. 6 seconds now back. You can see the orange numbers coming up from Muzz there and NZ Bro Frodo. They're getting a little bit nervous because I actually don't think it's NZ Bro Frodo crew here. That's why they'll be pushing up. And look at this, just riders coming up, 1s and 2s, breaking away from that group. This is awesome to see.
It is. It's very cool. And because they do know that it's danger. And I really think that if you can actually think a lot about watching something like Paris-Roubaix and the tactics that happen and apply them to racing across the board. And what we saw the other night with the break going early, led by Ineos, where a lot of the big riders were missing, some of them made it back, some of them didn't make it back, and some of them made it back but were so fried from making it back that they weren't able to do in the race what was expected. And that's the same for any race. So if a really big break like this goes, they may make it back, absolutely, but they may be so fried by the time they do make it back that they're not able to really keep racing. Tabelon is just
aggressive.
Very determined today, isn't he?
Oh, who are we going to give this 5K award? I mean, I was going to say Mark O'Brien just for his efforts up the climb, but then I'm looking at Tabelong as well with these monster attacks. And then he's been joined here by Danny's. NZ Bro seems to have new riders every week from a whole raft of different countries. But these riders are who I'm looking at. See these riders with the disc wheels? They could be doing bike swaps, and they were maybe trying to get away from these other riders just because a disc is going to be very slow up that dirt climb. If anyone's on a Tron, I think those Tron riders know to be bike swapping. Anyone on a disc, I think will do it. What they could be doing is going for those initial sprints, go for a bike swap, go for fastest time segment up the dirt climb, and then maybe that's their day done for the team.
Well, how long is the dirt segment? What's how many minutes is it? What are we talking in seconds? I feel like you've got this on your whiteboard.
Yeah, maybe for the men about, I'd say almost 4 to 5 minutes. It's a fairly long climb. I'd put it sort of shorter than the volcano, but longer than the hilly reverse in Watopia, so sort of in that mid-range, if that's specific enough. Or got a kick off the front. We will come back to the women's race as well. Looks like Mark Bosted is going off the front. He's on a disc wheel, so I wouldn't be surprised if he is maybe going to try and attempt a bike swap early for him. Going for the sprint. Is he going to get caught on the line here by Tabelong, the NZ Bro rider, who's probably devastated the compatriot is racing for an Australian team. Morgan here from Deepak coming up behind, and it looks like, is it Mark Bosted, the rider who I always used to think wasn't a great sprinter? Look at him go now.
Wow, now that he's under, some Aussie guard, is that what you're talking about,
Yeah,
Anna? Now that he's got a little bit of Aussie mentorship. I actually don't think anybody takes it quite as hard as you do when it comes to his semi-defection.
I've got to have it as a bit of banter, right? He has to email me afterwards like he did last week saying, these are the reasons why, and I love the team. Lucy taking that out over Georgia again with Alexander there. Probably a good time to bring in some of the segment points that we have from the women's race. Lucy Esdale, she is smoking this, and she has told me she is doing a bike swap. But looking at her now with these points, I just don't... Oh, she is on the disc wheel, so I think she could do that bike swap. Miller there coming through in second with 36 points. Wow, Lucy has done very well, though. I do want to say their drink for tonight, they always have a drink for the course, is the Sake Champagne Mojito. A bottle of sake, a bottle of extra dry champagne, a large bunch of mint leaves, juice of 4 limes, 6 drops of liquid stevia. Wow, what a drink. That sounds like quite the drink I would like to have on this course. Now, this is where things get a little bit spicy. They are going to hit a climb going up out of that sprint. So just as their legs are really struggling, they're going to be hitting this big drag up to the dirt section of this race course. It is very, very hard on the lungs. I have actually done this race course over the weekend myself, and this part was significantly hard. Just Coming through after a sprint like that, you've got very sore legs, and then you've got to hit this draggy climb. Goes up to 5, 6, 7% as they are near the dirt roads. The men are just a little bit ahead of the women on the course at the moment. They're at 18.6 kilometers. The women here at 18.1. And the climb we hit at about 21 kilometers, so not long to go. We've got some more attacks in the men's race. These will be the ones, although they're all on trons, I thought it might be the people who might want to do a bike swap who would go ahead, but it looks like I see size in the chat. Yes, the disc on dirt is asking for a hard ride, so that's what I'm thinking they're the bike swappers, but they're going to have to move ahead. There you are, Kate, and I think these guys on the trons, they're just attacking for the fun of it. 2 Japanese riders, 2 teammates, just making it hard on everyone else.
Yeah, I'm really interested about the thought around the bike, or whether people really haven't thought about it. And, if they are riding discs to then change bikes, then, that's really well thought out. If, on the other hand, they just haven't really thought about it, then that's going to bite them in the butt a little bit to do that. But look at that points-wise. The aero guys,
they're taking away.
Remembering.
Look at that.
Remembering that this is a points race. So
this is insane. It's 6 Aussie jerseys in the top 10? Oh, wow. That's phenomenal. What have we got here? Torben Partridge Madsen, those are those sprints. Is that Sam Hill there in second, Squilari in third, then we've got the Devola, Costa, Pacheco. This is just an Aussie wash over this whole race. Looks like Sam Hill is doing what he does best, time trialing off the front, making it very difficult for the rise ahead. Look how much this men's race has strung out. If I pan the camera across over this beautiful scenery, look at that. They have strung this out big time, and I'm not quite sure what the goal is right now of this these riders going off the front. Maybe just to neutralize any attacks on the climb and just make it as hard as they possibly can. Oh, lost audio there for Kate. See if that comes back, hopefully. It is one of those nights, I think. Looks as though there are a few more. Mark O'Brien again. I mean, I think he's coming down to my my 5K hero, just with how he's running with so much aggression. Let's have a look. We're coming up to the point that people will do a bike change. You see on the mini map there in the top right hand of the corner, this is the left-hander. That's where the dirt starts. About 25 kilometers where we want to see some people. So keep an eye out for any drop in watts to 0, because that is the sign that we've got someone swapping. I don't see any of these guys doing this. There we go. Kate's back. Too late.
I apologise.
No one from that group is swapping. Let's see. This group has got a lot of discs.
There's the issue is to ride a disc with a plan to swap. You have to anticipate how the race is going to go. It's not enough to plan what you're going to do. You have to really anticipate what the rest of the bunch is going to do. And I think that if they did plan a bike swap, it's just not working very well, because the whole bunch is with them and they're now just going to be chasing en masse, which, given their dominance, I'm just not sure it's necessary. But, I know you and I have a slight disagreement. I'm far more conservative around this kind of thing. But it is also one thing in the women's, I think, especially if you look at the B and Cs, where it's a little bit more predictable and a little bit less depth, so you can control it a bit more if you are choosing that tactic. The men's A, especially at Apac level, with all of the guys coming back from Premier League, they've got to do all they can to make it go right.
Yeah.
And then it's a good week versus a shocking week based on nothing except just the incredible depth there. So interesting how it plays out. And the women, do we think that there might be a change? We did have a quite en masse bike change in week 1.
I hope so. I mean, I have heard some will make a change, but like you said, I think it's really hard when you're in the group. There's just not that motivation to do it because you're going to lose some time. If you can get even just 5 seconds off the front, and they would have had to have tried to do that on the climb after the sprint for anyone to kind of go ahead. But if you're purely going for fastest time segment, this is a smallish group of, it looks like about 15 riders. Oh, it looks like someone has dropped off. I don't actually think they've bike swapped though. We've got bike swaps. Yes, this is why I love the women's racing. It's actually going to happen.
TBRs who did it last time too, and it worked.
But they do have someone else from Raven Bees is sitting back there. We've got some slow swaps. They need to get a move on. Lucy's off. So that was great. The others, looks like they've had some real issues just sitting there in the distance, not really moving at all yet. So there we go. They're up and running. Danny, that not great. Needs a little bit of extra work there. And then using a drafting power up, unfortunately, at a time where she's not on anybody's draft. So would have been better to maybe save that. I love it still. I love the effort to do it. Now, we're going to stay with the women's race because I just love a bike swap. And I want to see if Lucy, who promised me she would do one, so kudos to her. It shows she's on a disc. She is not on a disc, sometimes just from our broadcast. Look how quickly she has caught these riders. Look at that.
Yeah, that's impressive. But Lucy showed from that first sprint that she's got pretty good legs today. And maybe she knew that she needed to be pretty warmed up early on, which is why she went for that. They are starting to regroup here. I'm closely looking for Danny Padgham, because she, with the bike swap, I want to see her get back up there.
It's just so much faster. Look how much faster this is from Emily here, riding for TBR. She's just blitzing past. You can see, particularly on the parts of the course where it goes really steep, this gravel bike is just immensely fast. Like, you just see the others look like they're dragging around in the mud, and she is just hot-footed it past them. It is an Elisa Longa Borghini on the Paris-Roubaix course. It's just
look at that.
Stronger. Look at this. It's great bike setup. She's already in 5th place. 7th place, sorry. She's coming through now. I mean, she'll take this to the front. She'll take fastest time segment, probably first across line. What a decision. Now, will she have the 5K Winners Award? That's the question.
Ooh, well, I think that I just want to gently urge you to give one for the men and the women. You have the power here, Anna. This is yours. But I feel like we've had some pretty standout performances on both sides. Well, I was thinking Bosted, but I think that you're too offended by the fact that he's riding for Aero. I'm not. I feel sorry, Mark. I feel like you may have been blacklisted. Also, I might add, I dobbed you in, Anna. I promised the 5K heroes from America West that you would source some pineapple lumps for them.
Oh, gosh, okay.
Sorry, yeah. So I've dobbed you in there. We'll have to get that organised, but that's only for the 5K heroes from America West. Okay. So it's not all of them.
So it looks like Tricino there has taken that out from Mark O'Brien. I mean, he's leaning towards my rider, 5K hero, just because he's been in every move and he is attacking. But on the women's side, if we're going to go men and women, I mean, look at this. Emily G from TBR, what a legend. Out there on her gravel bike, she's in 1st place now. She was in last because she stopped and did the bike swap. She has crushed it. She is so far ahead of everyone else now. This then comes down to the question. Now, I have got a thought about what I will do tomorrow. I don't know if I will share it, but this is where you need to make a decision of what you do. She's 8 seconds ahead of Henneken from Rave, 15 seconds ahead of Corinne from AHDRL, and it is split up. So we don't have a big pack anymore. We've just got riders kind of 2s, 3s, all spread out around the road. People watching, what do you think she should do? Because I have an idea in my head about what she should do, but I'm keen to hear what other people's thoughts are because she's got such a lead now. You know, does she swap back to the disc? That's the question, right?
Oh, I'm not sure that I'd bother, to be honest. I would take the momentum and I would keep going with it. That would be my choice. I feel like you would probably disagree with that. We seem to always come from opposite sides when it
Which
comes
is
to
great, right?
the equipment stuff. But I mean, she has got that. What you risk for the bike change is you risk breaking the momentum that you have. And I don't mean like physical momentum. I mean like in your legs and your physiology, and you're getting into it and you're feeling good, and you threaten to break that a little bit. In saying that, the course from the 23 odd kilometer mark, or 23 and a half, it might be, not too far to the top now, it's very much downhill and then flat for the last 5.5K. So you will break a little bit of that power momentum anyway, just by the nature of going over the top. But I don't know. Well, how much, I guess this is the question, how much does the algorithm consider weight over rolling resistance? Because the gravel bike would be heavier, therefore on the downhill it could be actually beneficial.
That's a really, really good point. And I don't know if that's well known what the algorithms there are. Looking back at the points here, Lucy Esdale's still miles ahead after that third sprint with Miller, Fung, Maple. So looking here at Emily from TBR, I mean, TBR, they're already ahead with Esdale. She's going to take the fastest time segment and first across line here in this race. So TBR is looking very strong. She's very close to coming to the top. Yeah, this is the hard question because would you change to the disc at the top? Sort of once you've gone over the climb where it flattens out, and then, you know, maybe the disc is actually as fast as a gravel bike downhill anyway. She knows everyone behind her is on the other bike. So, and also you don't want to do a bike change on a downhill because the people behind you would have so much momentum. They'll catch you very, very quickly. Although she is a very, very long way ahead now.
Well, it was Henneken, remember, who went over the top in week 1 with them, and she didn't do the bike change. So that was the difference last time, and she did go over the top, and we were like, okay, wow, you know, she's managing to on her normal bike keep in with this, and it's, you know, it was a great ride from her. She's going over the top now for Emily Gartland. I reckon stick to it because, you know, my other thought about that is if the others choose to change bikes, that gives Emily Gartland like that extra 7, 8, 10 seconds on top of what she's already got. And you're not going to bring back 30 seconds based on a bike. Oh, she's changing.
She's swapping.
Right now.
Yeah.
She is. She's
I think this is a good decision.
Right.
And she's a quick
Well,
changer. Look at that.
Oh, that was quick.
That was 4 seconds. Still a 23-second lead. Now, what do you do now? I mean, do you just take this all the way to the line? I mean, if she does, she is definitely in line for a bit of a cat upgrade, I think, after this, if she can hold 4.5 watts to the line. Do want to mention too as well what we've got happening in the men's race on the left. We have Mark O'Brien, Tracino from World Elite Zwifters, and Takasugi. So 2 teammates. I mean, this is some interesting action in the men's race. 2 teammates against an aero rider, broken away 19 seconds ahead of the chasing pack. And the chasing pack isn't a huge group. It's 4. And then 8 seconds back, you've got Mark Bosted leading a much, much larger group. So, well, not even that large, though. It looks like about 10 riders. So huge action in the men's race. Ghost Power has been dropped here by Tabalong. 18 seconds ahead now, but only a group of 4 chasing. I mean, this is pretty good stuff.
Yeah, this is serious business. So Ed Morgan's kind of looked like he was stuck in the middle for a little while. He is now back with that group. Aikida and Tabalong and Rogerio Costa, they are a few seconds ahead of the rest of that chasing bunch, but again, they're fairly strung out in that regard. Now, if you just take a look at the powers from the top 10 in the race at the moment. The top 6 are all over 4.9 watts per kg average so far.
Wow.
You've got Mark O'Brien's up at 5.4, Tabalong at 5.3. I mean, this is just pretty full on. This is solid racing. This is the kind of racing that if it wasn't A's would get them booted up to the next category,
insane.
and they'd be losing the points. And that's an interesting one on the women's side, is that if we do see Emily Gartland moved up, she doesn't get the points for this week. And there's also no A's in the Apac, and I reckon that would leave her a little bit grumpy and possibly with nowhere to race. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword,
isn't it?
She might just, you know what I would do in her position, Anna?
What?
I'd eat a couple of pavlovas. I'd put on a kilo or two. It's like win-win, right? You drop that power and you get the enjoyment out of it, and you get to stay in the race. I mean, that's probably indicative that I'm retired, that I would say something like that. And people are probably very offended. They're like, what?
That's great. Next sprint coming up in 32.4k, but looking at those kilometers, I'm ticking it over.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I'm picking it. Okay. I'm going to go men and women, and I think it's easy to see because I've got them up on screen. We're going to have Mark O'Brien for the men, 5k to go hero, and Emily here for the women for the 5k to go hero. Bike swap is always going to be a favourite of mine, and Mark O'Brien just attacking every single bit of tarmac possible, and has got a nice little breakaway going. He's tried to make the breakaway stick. It finally has. That's it. I've picked those 5k to go heroes. Do you agree with those, Katie?
Yep.
Good.
I do. I think they're good. I think they're good picks, and I think we also have to maybe have a rule that our 5k to go hero can't get it 2 weeks in a row, and that rule is specifically designed for Mark O'Brien. I have to say. Yeah. But I love his style of racing, like every week, regardless of anything, he always gives it a really good crack. Saw that 2 seasons ago before they got upgraded to Prem. It was like, oh, O'Brien's here tonight. Okay, well, we know, what's going to happen. And he's at it again. It's a really good style of racing. So I like that. But I'm loving that Emily Gartland is just so comfortable in her dominance that she changed the bike you're right, it was like 4 to 5 seconds. You got down to 7, didn't you? Do you reckon you can get down to 4 or 5 seconds by tomorrow?
There was a bit of chat. I think some people can get it down so well because they're actually using macros. So they get what's called a stream deck. And that sounds really bad in a New Zealand accent, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
I just realized that myself. But anyway, you know what I'm saying. You build in a macro where basically you just push the buttons all into just one button. So you just push that one button and it's kind of bike swap. That can get you down to about 3 seconds. So that could be what Emily's done here to make that pretty quick. She's still got 15 seconds on the others. The men are approaching the next sprint. So we'll head over and have a look at our 5k hero for the men, Mark O'Brien. See if he can take this out. I mean, this is the benefit of potentially doing a bike swap and staying away, is that you'll then mop up the first across line points in this last sprint, which is so close to the finish line. These men, though, I'm loving the fact I'm seeing so many more breakaways in this racing because it just makes it so much more interesting than everyone going to the line. They're getting chased by a big group, though, but still 20 seconds behind, sorry.
Yeah, and the gap is closing down a little bit because it was at around the 28-second mark, but they're coming so close to the finish that I just can't see that coming down, to be honest. It will be important for these guys to get these sprint points. They hit the line right now because it is points race. It's not about who wins at the end, which, so there's no need to save it. Mark O'Brien is very clearly going for those points. He's accelerating who's surprised? Not me.
Wow. This guy's just dominating everything. I mean, I'll pull up the segment points. I mean, he must be somewhere pretty crazy on the top of those points for this men's race. I mean, the Aero team has done a great job, I've got to say. Still looks like Torben Partridge Madsen on the top. So he must be going for some what I call the sneaky points, which is the fastest time segment, where you may not see them crossing the line first, but they've just done it really fast. I'm not. Oh, Mark O'Brien's sitting there in 6th. They wouldn't have counted that last sprint yet, but still doing pretty well there. Torbjörn Partridge Madsen, though, it shows how important those first 3 sprints are. So we had those first sprints at 0.7k, 3.9k, and then another one at 17k. He looks like he kind of took out all those fastest time segments almost, and has just mopped up a lot of points for his team.
Well, I love that, because that was clearly their tactic at the beginning. Marco, go rip everybody's legs off. Torben, you got the points early on. And he did kind of have that attack, if we recall, into that second sprint, and took it quite easily and put a lot of pressure on there. So not only giving him the first across the line, but mopping up those fastest through, which is just extra bonus points on top of it, isn't it? So the gap has come down significantly now to 14 seconds. Will it be enough? I'm not sure that it will be. Will it even matter? I'm also not sure that it will. But there is no denying that there is still a lot of kudos and credential and good feelings, good vibes for being the first across the line, even though it's a points race, even though you may not actually on paper win the race. There is a good feeling about crossing the line first. I do think that is quite important for a number of riders. So they don't have too far to go. And over in the women, Emily Gartland still has a solid 17-second lead, a bit of a chase bunch behind her.
We will go
3 to 5
back.
riders kind of very close, but we've just it's not a too dissimilar happening in the men. It's just that they have a bigger group with 3 of them instead of just Gartland on their own.
2 teammates, so they're just about to finish. They're going to round this left-hander. They've got about 600 meters to go. 2 teammates versus Mark O'Brien. How do you play this? I mean, what are these the World Elite Zwifters teams in the blue do with making this a bit more of a team game? I thought one of them should go early, should just go now and draw out the attack early from Mark O'Brien.
That's what I would think. I would definitely think, actually, to back off a little bit. I'm a big fan of that. I'm a big fan, Anna, of dropping back even 2 or 3 meters, not out of the draft, but enough, and then going whack, because then when you even hit their wheel, you're at full speed. Early move from Takasugi, but he hasn't opened any kind of gap at all. Tracino trying to take it on, but Marco,
we're gonna have to see
O'Brien a little bit too late, I think.
Photo finish there from Mark O'Brien. And the chase team came back very, very quickly. Couldn't even see who came in after that group. That was an amazing finish from the men. I will take us back over to the women. We still have Emily well out in front. Well out. So 15 seconds ahead of a group of 5 riders, I think. So she'll be approaching that last sprint at the 30... What are we looking at? 32.4k. They should be hitting that last sprint, and then she'll be taking her solo way to the finish line. I just don't think so. This crew behind, I always would want to kind of be in this spot a little bit, is where you've got a teammate broken away, you're in the chase pack, and you can kind of just get a free ride. You're not doing any work, and you're not expected to do any work.
That is absolutely correct. I mean, that is the absolute value of a good team tactic. We saw it with the Trek ladies at Roubaix. We're seeing it here tonight as well. It's one of the age-old ones. I think, to go back to the men for just a second, I think Mark O'Brien mistimed that. I don't think he realised quite how quick that was, because he came off the wheel and started accelerating, and all of a sudden it was there. I tend to think that might have been a mistiming from him, but good riding from the World Elite Zwifters. And as I was kind of saying when that came upon us so quickly, Anna, I do think, and the same goes in the women's for the minor placings, is that if you are going to have a sprint in this kind of group, and you're not really confident of being the fastest sprinter, where no matter what anybody does, you'll be able to ride your own sprint and still have very few come over the top of you. It is very beneficial to, by the time you even get to their back wheel, that you're accelerating so fast that it's kind of a bit too late for them to jump. That's the best way to sprint, I think, in any scenario if you're not a sprinter, if you're not really biding your time and waiting.
Yeah.
And we have seen a lot of the sprinters actually develop pretty well. I mean, you're one of them, Anna. I believe that a few seasons ago you weren't much of a sprinter, but now you've actually, got a bit of speed in those legs.
Well, I mean, it's just fun, right? I mean, I'm a triathlete. I'm used to 180-kilometer time trials where there is no speed needed in the legs whatsoever. But it's been a bit of fun. At the moment, I'm doing a whole lot of workouts to work on my 1 minute power, which has been quite fun as well.
Ooh.
Quite hard workouts, I've got to say.
And by fun you mean vomit inducing, because that's normally what 1 minute efforts do.
Exactly. Georgia here actually coming through. These guys look like they are catching up quite a bit. 9 seconds now on Emily. So Georgia coming through there. Looks like she could have been just passed by Lucy. Is Lucy going to roll over and then catch up to her teammate? That'd be great. Emily's back up to the over 5 watts. She's getting nervous. Look, you can see her just in the distance. If we go up to Emily, shoot around the camera, they're just there. So Emily may get past her at the end. She has to be a bit careful.
She does need to be a little bit careful. And I'm also wondering what Lucy is going to do here. Is she just going to sit on Georgia and, say, well, you can drag me up? Was it going through that sprint that did bring them that little bit closer, or are they kind of trying to chase in earnest? So Georgia Miller that is with Lucy Isdale. And they're both pretty solid, 15-second riders. They're similar kind of style, but now the 4 of them are coming back together. Henneken, we saw her brilliance in the first weekend. Emma Falez from Tune Bike Works there as well. Will these 4 ride together? Is Henneken and Falez just catching their breath and catching their legs? Because back out to 14 seconds for Emily Gartland.
Yeah, Emily just put in a few little shocks there at sort of around 5 watts a kg. So she is definitely riding. She's aiming for that ACAT bump, that's for sure. So she's looking pretty good. But this group behind is kind of who I'm interested in now, Emily. I think we'd probably be safe to say she's got a kilometre to go. I think we'll be safe to say that she's going to take this one out. I'm interested to see who's going to get there in the chase, because you've got a few good sprinters. Lucy, the battle between Lucy and Georgia. So Lucy from TBR and Georgia from AHDRL is the one I'm looking at, because those teams are tied at the top of the table. And every single point counts. Emily's sitting here for TBR, looking really good, but we've seen it before. You've got to have your whole team doing well. So Lucy coming in for second would be pretty phenomenal.
And Lucy's been great from that first sprint. As we said, she won that quite convincingly and quite easily. There's a few names that we would have normally thought that we'd see. Hence Semenko up there. Corinne Dolan is the other one that we perhaps thought we might see up there. But this is a bit of a different course than it has been in the other weeks, with the bike changes, with the points racing, the on and off. It is quite different to what we saw on week 1. And I love that we're seeing an emergence of new talent. Now, particularly important, I think, for Lucy Isdale to try and get these points is if Emily Gartland is in fact bumped up a category from this, she'll lose her points from this one. And so TBR really need to be looking at that. But in fact, Emily Gartland needs to be looking at that and maybe backing off a little bit to still take the win, but be able to maintain those points, which, by the way, she's not doing. She just got out of her seat for a big sprint, even though she's got this fairly convincingly.
Oh, and this is a nice look at Lucy. I knew she'd just be good at sprinting. And who's on her tail? Georgia. But I think Lucy has taken this away. Oh, has she though? Henneken coming in very quick. Oh, that was a great finish. But Lucy, She did that very well. I thought she might have taken that out. She's a very good sprinter. I do just want to show, because I was really interested in your timing comments about Mark O'Brien, Katie. So I wouldn't mind you talking me through the sprint that we saw in the men's race just before, because I'd be really intrigued to know where you think Mark kind of just got it wrong.
Well, we're looking at Takasugi, and it was Takasugi and Trissino. Takasugi was the first to go, and when Trissino went over the top, Mark O'Brien, see, he only gets out of his seat here, but he sits back down. Trissino goes, look at where Mark O'Brien is. It's like he doesn't even realise, and then all of a sudden, he moves on the back of Trissino. See, I just think that he was, to me, I think that when Takasugi was moving and Mark O'Brien was just sitting really comfy, as though he didn't quite realise the timing on it. I mean, really well done from the World Elite Zwifters to time that so well, and Trissino only jumped so late, because that's also really good timing from them. But I do think that sometimes on these kinds of courses, it's hard to get your timing right, because they're not the ones that you tend to ride that often.
Exactly.
So it's not overly familiar, and you often don't, like, everybody in Central Park now has a landmark for sprints.
Yeah.
It's so easy to do all the time, but I think every course on Macquarie Islands, people are still getting there with familiarity. But Mark O'Brien well and truly made everybody suffer, which I think is, what he's known for, at least with us. I don't know what he's known for from other people, but that's what we know him for.
No, I'd say, he's just known to me as a bit of an attacker. I'd have to say he just tends to. I saw in this race. That's why I wanted to give him the 5K hero. He just attacked absolutely every bit of ground that he possibly could. Do just want to have a quick look at the women's race for second place, because I always like Lucy. She always sends me a good message on a Tuesday, so I'll see her come in. I barely got to see who was coming in second and third there. I'm almost sure it was Henneken there from Rave. This is Emily finishing in her first place. Hopefully she'll get to stay in the Bs, but not sure after that performance. And there we go with Lucy. She opened up quite early, took it from the back all the way to the front with a huge pop, massive gap straight away. Looks like Henneken and Georgia fought it out. Henneken managed to keep it right to the line. And I have seen that our results have come in too, so we can head straight over to those.
Ooh, excellent. Let's take a look at those. This is turning into a very interesting season. So we'll take a look at the results when they pop up. Next week, of course, they're heading to Libby Hill, so no rest for the wicked. They've got a couple of, it's another points race with 5 laps with a Libby Hill finish. So let's take a look at the men. I know. Finally, of course, you don't like Anna. So this is a great ride from the World Elite Zwifters here, and Mark O'Brien sitting in second. Takasugi, he came in third. For the men, it was Trissino who took the win. James Harvey in fourth. Josh Haggerty, he showed some pretty quick legs, I must say, in a couple of those sprints, early ones from NZ Bro Frodo, although he's the only one in the top 10 this week. So bit of a, can we call it an off week from that team? I don't know. Definitely. Fabian Davola, great to have him back from Prem League for Deepak. He was in sixth. Mark Bosted in seventh. For Aero, he rides for Aero, Anna, the Aussie team. Not sure if you realise that. We've got Staccato Akeda from World Elite Zwifters, and Rogerio Costa from World Elite Zwifters. Now, they have had a brilliant week, because they have had 4 in the top 10. Nick Squalari, our time trial specialist, sitting in 10th there, and only 10 seconds between that top 10 in the end. So the gap did come down very significantly from where Harvey was to that break of 3.
That was they did some big early sprinting, I think, to catch on. We'll see if we can get the women's results also coming in. Oh, there we go. And we've got from the BCAT women, we saw Emily Gartland take it out Big watts per kg there, so she's at a bit of risk of promotion, or risk or reward, I guess. Lucy Esdale from TBR Smile on B, 10 seconds back with that monster sprint. Claudia Marie Henneken in third from Raven Bees. Then AHDRL, so like we saw with NZ Bro, a bit of an off week. I'd say AHDRL, not a great week for them either. They have a rider there in fourth with Georgia Miller. Emma Falez in fifth, Chicks and Nicks, one of my favourite team names. Sarah Alexander from Raven Bees. Corinne Dolan from AHDRL Bullets. Sharon Boyd from the Raven Bees. And then Melissa Fung and Kylie Adair, also from the AHDRL Bullets.
So another great week of racing. So next week, Anna, they are heading to the Libby Hill after party, 5 laps. Yeah. So that'll be a little bit of fun for them. And it will be interesting. Head to WTRL.racing to check out all of the results and the league standings, because after that scratch race, the team's time trial, and now the points race, I think the only name that we've said on repeat is probably Mark O'Brien. But across the other ones, we've actually had some new riders, and I'm interested to see with Emily Gartland whether there is a promotion on the cards. So we'll have to wait and see what happens on that front.
Yeah, exactly. It was some good racing though. I've got to say, I was talking to a colleague of yours today, someone who rides mostly on the road, Gracie Elvin, and I was saying, could esport ever get to the point of what we see in real life racing, with the real team dynamics, the real sort of breakaways going, teams sort of mucking up the chase? And I think we're starting to see a bit of that happening. I mean, you saw it with the Aussie team and the Esport World Champs. It was definite team dynamics, probably in no small part to their great DS. And then you also had the racing tonight. I mean, that men's race, they could have stuck together as a big blob the whole way and just gone sprint points, but no, there was a lot of breaks, and women solo victory as well. So yeah, I think esport, there's a bit more of that excitement coming in.
Yeah, I think so too. I think give it a couple of years and it'll be very serious business with some serious money involved and teams. And I'm excited for that. We're like at the forefront of it. Foundation level, Anna.
We're pioneers.
Getting into it. I know. It will be talked about for generations to come, as will Mark O'Brien. No doubt. Well, Anna, good luck tomorrow. Between now and then, download that macro thing. I'm not a tech person. I don't really know what that means, but it seems like that's what you need. Yeah. And good luck. Good luck. I'm on with Dave Toll for America West at the other bookmark of the community. So we will always be downloading your race and seeing what happened. Thank you to everybody who tuned in and joined on socials and for contributing your tips to the 5K Hero. You're helping Anna very much with that one.
See you next time.
See you next time.